not one individual every year needlessly because of lack of health care?
Great question. I don't know if you saw last weekend the Washington Post had a story about rural healthcare. And they profiled a town in Tennessee where effectively all the healthcare providers have left the town. It's a rural area that's poor and it's shrinking in population. And what happens is temporary clinics get set up where good-minded folks drive into town, you know, in like trailers and set up a clinic. And people get there at 1 in the morning and they take numbers like you do in a grocery store in the Hy-Vee, you know, when you're gonna get called on in the deli section. And they told the story of a couple. The woman had seen a doctor in 4 years. Their number was 462. They got there at 1 in the morning. They finally saw the doctor at like 4 in the afternoon. And the husband said, she's got so many issues, I don't even know where to begin. Right? So these stories are happening everywhere, which is why I think healthcare is a human right and that everyone should have healthcare coverage in this country. Period, full stop. I have a plan, it's called Better Care. What Better Care does is a couple things, and I want to go through it carefully. Not too long, but carefully. It leaves Medicare alone. Medicare works, and I don't see why we have to mess with it. People like it. The second thing it does is it gives everyone from when they're born to when they're 65 a federal healthcare policy for free as a right of citizenship that covers the basic healthcare package that was in the Affordable Care Act as a set of minimum benefits. And you roll Medicaid into it, so you wouldn't have Medicaid anymore. You'd have this Better Care plan that you get from when you're born to you're 65, and then you go on Medicaid. So that ensures that every single American, every single one, has healthcare coverage. So if they're poor, if they're between jobs, if they're starting a business, if they're a kid that goes off their parents' plan, whatever the case may be, they have a basic federal healthcare plan and they don't have to pay for it. What Better Care allows for, however, is there to be a private insurance market as well. So what people can do is they can say, I don't want my government healthcare. Okay, you don't have to take it. You get a tax credit, a small tax credit, which you can use to buy private insurance. And you can give it to your employer, or you can give it to your union, you know, for their healthcare plan. Or you can buy supplemental plans, like Medicare beneficiaries do now, where they get basic Medicare, but they buy some plans for some additional bells and whistles. So what I'm proposing is what I call a mixed model. And it's like the model Germany has, and France has, and Sweden has, and the Netherlands have, where those countries give everyone a basic healthcare package, but allow their citizens to buy private insurance plans if they want. I think that's far superior to Medicare for all, for two reasons, as you said, policy and politics. Let me talk about policy first. The problem we have with Medicare and Medicaid in this country is that they don't pay enough. You see that here in Iowa with Medicaid. And it's true with Medicare. On average, Medicare pays half of what commercial insurance does for the same hospital procedure. And that's well documented. In fact, the Medicare trustees, the people who oversee the Medicare program, will tell you that the program pays about 90% of healthcare costs. Medicaid pays 80% of healthcare costs. Private insurance pays 115 to 120% of costs. In the Medicare for All bill that all these candidates have gotten behind, it specifically says, I think it's section 1002, that the rates on Medicare under Medicare for All will be the same as the current Medicare program. So by definition, if this were to become law, the amount of payments to providers would go down dramatically, and a lot of them would not be able to provide care, which is something, by the way, we're seeing in rural America already, where a lot of rural healthcare providers are closing. So I think that's a huge problem. And I think it's, some people view it as a detail, but I think it's an extraordinarily important detail. The second problem with it is just a matter of politics. 150 million Americans have private health insurance. A lot of them like it, a lot. I bet you like your health care. My dad, who was an IBEW member, he loved his health care. If I was running, my dad passed away 2 years ago, if I was running right now and talking about universal health care, my dad, I think, would be proud of me. He'd be like, of course everyone should have health care. Like, why are we even talking about that, is what he'd say. But then he would say, don't take away my health care. Why are you going to do that? And if I were to say, well, Dad, trust me, this government program is going to be great, he'd be like, I'll believe it when I see it. And that's what most Americans are going to say. And so I just think we'll lose every election. Think about Medicare beneficiaries. Right now, about half the folks on Medicare are choosing something called Medicare Advantage, which is an option that you have. If you're a Medicare beneficiary, you can get your basic Medicare, or you can choose Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage has lower copays and offers some more benefits. It doesn't cost you anymore. But you're managed, meaning they have networks and stuff like that. It's private insurance that creates it. If we actually pass the Medicare for All bill today that everyone's gotten behind, Medicare Advantage would be illegal. Do you think we're going to win any elections if we tell half of our seniors that their Medicare Advantage is no longer allowed? So again, my big part of my campaign is this notion of let's fix what's broken, but let's leave what's working. What's broken in healthcare right now is we have a tragedy of uninsured Americans. And too many Americans have insufficient or way too expensive healthcare plans. But what's working is about 100 million people actually really like their health insurance. So when we take this next bold step forward, why do we have to go further than Germany and France and Sweden and Netherlands and throw out the entire US healthcare system? That just doesn't make sense to me. We should attack the problems and fix those and not mess with what's working. And maybe over 10 or 20 years, if the political will is there to make the government plan so good, then everyone will just drop their private health insurance and go on it, and we get to the same place. But I worry that the reason some people are pushing this Medicare for All is actually not about health care. It's about their disdain for private insurance. And I'm not trying to defend private insurance. I don't like private insurance any more than anyone else does. But we have to live in the real world. And so that's my view on healthcare.
Thank you.